For those of us listening, we've been promoting at least going to confession once a month. Father, what is your prescription for listeners who are wanting to live a Christ-centered life? How often should they be receiving the sacrament of confession?
I think that's a good idea. Yeah, at least once a month. Some people in our parish, we try to be really available to hear confessions. Actually, I hear confessions Monday through Friday from 10 to 1.
That's impressive.
And usually from maybe 4 to 5 or 5:30. I try to confess usually from 4 to 5 hours on a daily basis, because only I can do that.
Exactly.
And whether or not I've got a headache or not, as long as I give the absolution, the person is free. Absolutely. So it doesn't depend upon my sentimental state or how I feel physically. Because, and my founder said this, the oblate should die in the pulpit or the confessional.
What a great line! Now that sounds like a Fulton Sheen line. I'm sorry, but wow, Fulton Sheen says I'd rather burn out than rust out.
Right.
And so it's kind of the same run, but the saints are like that.
Well, I mean, I've read the lives of many saints, and I read the life of the Curé of Ars.
Oh my goodness.
And I have a first-class relic of the Curé of Ars.
Wow.
So
that's impressive.
As well as Saint Ignatius and Saint Philip Neri.
Wow.
And you probably know, reading his life by Trochu or by O'Brien, he spent 13 to 17 hours confessing every day for about 35 to 38 years.
Yes.
And you imagine that. And then he slept about 3 hours a day, and he slept on the board, ate 3 potatoes a day.
I was just going to say the potatoes.
And then he would scourge himself also, doing all that
Unbelievable.
penance. So ever since I've been a priest, I've always tried to be available to confess.
That's awesome.
As often as I can, because only we can do that,
Father, you're not the only oblate has said this to me. You guys are one, it's like, I'll use another order, the Norbertine Fathers down in Orange County. They're well-formed community. Father, if someone if a young man was saying, you know what, maybe God's calling me to be a priest, and I'm going to be honest with you, I try to direct young men to Orthodox communities because the church, unfortunately, is in a situation where I've seen young men go to a seminary and lose their vocation. So how can people, young men specifically, find information out about the vocation of a priest to the Oblates of the Virgin Mary?
Well, it's interesting you say that because yesterday as well as today, we're giving a vocational retreat to 11 young men at the parish of St. Peter Chanel.
Oh, great.
So we got about 11 young men that
awesome.
These 2 days, they're discerning the vocation. And we have now 5 priests in St. Peter Chanel and Weingards and a deacon. And so we're really trying to plant the seeds because the harvest is rich and the labors are very few. If they were to call the Oblates of the Virgin Mary in Boston, we'd be able to get some information and a come and see weekend.
Yes,
I tell a lot of young men, you got nothing to lose, everything to gain.
There you go.
Right.
And again, the charism of your order. Can you repeat that?
Sure.
Because we're talking about the vocation.
Because you mentioned it, Terry, at the beginning. The first thing is given the spiritual exercise of Saint Ignatius Loyola, and it could be the week, 8-day, or even a weekend retreat, or annotation 19. What I'm doing is a 10-week. Synthesis of it.
Yes.
The second would be the Marian devotion. We really try to get people to really love the Blessed Virgin Mary. And that's where our name is Oblate of the Virgin Mary. Oblate comes from Latin oblatio, which means we are a total offering to Jesus through Mary. So we try to get people to pray to Mary, to love Mary, to trust Mary, to give themselves to Mary. Third element would be the importance of getting good books into the hands of people. My founder died in 1830s, so you didn't have TV and the internet and the radio the way it has. But today would be basically following the footsteps of Fulton Sheen.
Yes.
Trying to preach the word, trying to get people to read good books, listen to the good radio, good internet connection, good pamphlets, good periodicals. In other words, to get the people to think.
Yes.
Think spiritually.
Yes.
The third part of our charism is this. Once I say this, you're going to say it's a very important charism.
Oh, absolutely.
To fight against modern heresies.
Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Really? I didn't. You know what, Father?
Yeah.
I've met so many of your priests. I didn't realize on modernism, the Pope Pius X?
Yes.
1907, I believe.
Yeah.
You're going to find something interesting on our website. Are you ready for this? We have that document on our website because we want people to read it because we want to be careful. I mean, I'm not in management, I'm in sales. But what I do mean by that is it's real clear today that modernism has crept into to the church to a point where you have to be aware of it and to identify it and to make sure that, whatever any, priests dressed like you, the Catechism of the Catholic Church, go to your sources, your Bible, your Catechism, the perennial teachings of the church, because unfortunately, and this is unfortunate, that in the church today, there are certain priests and, a religious who aren't on the same page with the church. So modernism, man, I did not know that so what do you recommend to our listeners? I just gave you my formula, the catechism, the perennial teachings of the church. What else can you add to that? Because I'm here to learn from you.
Yes. In our time, when the time of our founder, the biggest heresy was called Jansenism. This was back.
Of course, I remember that. I mean, I read about it. Yeah.
But now there's so many other problems. I would say possibly the dictatorship of moral relativism.
There you go, Benedict XVI.
That's right. That's probably one of the biggest ones today.
Yeah.
I would say yes. If you want to be faithful, follow the magisterium of the church, the catechism of the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
Also, I say it's very important also to become cognizant of the documents of Vatican II.
Oh, my gosh.
And especially the dogmatic constitutions, which would be Sacrosanctum Concilium,
Yes.
De Verbum, Gaudium et Spes, as well as Lumen Gentium. Those are the four pillars. I would say those four pillars, the Catechism of the Catholic Church, are the two foundational documents over the past 70 years to really get to know our faith well. Then I would say, Terry, also,
Yes.
to have a good spiritual director, an orthodox spiritual director, and have a good confessor.
Yeah.
With that, I think you're on the strict and narrow.
Awesome. Yeah. Father, I'm just smiling at you, and I'll tell you why. When I'm listening to you, I'm saying to myself, this is what we call the meat and potatoes of Catholicism, staying focused. I would add one more element, and I think you would probably agree that the unemployment rate for guardian angels is way too high, that we need to put them to work.
Yes. And not only that, Terry, but also I have a great devotion to Michael, Gabriel, and Raphael.
Oh, my goodness. We just celebrated that.
Yes.
Sure.
I love those guys. I love those.